Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. Today, we're talking about This Ravenous Fate by Hayley Dennings, the author's debut novel following Elise Saint and the tense atmosphere of Harlem in the 1920s, where humans are becoming reapers, creatures akin to vampires. So we were both super excited about this book. Kayla, what did
Mhm.
you think of it?
I genuinely enjoyed it up until probably the last 10 to 15 pages. And now I'm just confused. Are we getting a second book? That ending left a lot to be desired, and I hope it's because we're getting a book too, and not because that's just how the book is ending.
Yeah, I think we're getting another book because I noticed on Goodreads it specifically says like so and so, like number one.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume there's another book coming.
Then in that case, I
Ah,
loved it.
solid. I did and then I didn't. Even knowing that there's another book coming, I think a lot kind of happened. It felt like we spent a good like 200 or something pages, right? Where I was like, okay, world building is world building. It got a little slow for a while for
Hmm.
me. And then like those last like 50 pages really like a bunch hit you
Yes.
back to back. I was getting like whiplash from it.
The pacing was weird towards the end
The
of the
pacing was
book.
weird. There were at least one time that stuck out to me because once again these are just the things that I noticed. But there was one time where Layla was somewhere. I think she was at like the doctor's office trying to figure something out. And there was just like a typo where instead of Layla it said Elise, but it like knocked me out efficiently enough to where I actually had to like go back and make sure I wasn't like missing something. So it kind of like messed up my flow a little bit because I was like, wait, Elise isn't there. And then it all became a little confusing for that one scene. I think the book was really enjoyable. I think there was a lot of creativity in the connections and the plot twists and the events unfolding. The character that kind of confuses me the most is like Sterling.
Yeah, his about face really threw me for a loop.
Yeah, I understand having the trauma of losing his family. As we said earlier, this book is set in the 1920s, and so the idea of people of color being viewed and treated as less is a lot more apparent and a lot more normalized in the 1920s. Sterling's family has really
Black
been,
people
yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
Yeah.
His family has definitely paid a heavy price just
Mm-hmm.
for the melanin in their skin. And so he has a lot
Correct.
of trauma dealing with that. However, it's like the cause of him being, or not the cause because it was a lot deeper, but what really seemed to trigger was obviously like he's hiding in Elise's room. Tea gets spilled on him, and so that obviously is painful. But
Mm-hmm.
like nowhere in that did Elise like force him to help her with anything. And so his reasoning of like idea that he was really pushing on of like you're taking your family for granted, like I don't want to lose them, I love these people, like they've given me this job, I've worked this hard and stuff like that, was all really kind of confusing because Elise wasn't like, I think she was too quick to be like, oh yeah, he's right, when I'm like,
Yeah.
he kind of knew what was going on, he didn't need to like be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And if he thought that like it wasn't the right thing to do, that should have
Mm-hmm.
already been something he was thinking about and not suddenly this is Elisa's fault. She's made me go down this dark path. And then to like take it a step farther and completely like sell her out to her father.
See, I thought it was the part where Elise let Layla feed off of her that led him to absolutely just snapping and essentially turning his back on her, because that felt more like a slap in the face.
Yeah, I think there was a lot in that scene in terms of things kind of like unfolding with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think even before he noticed her neck, he was like already upset.
Yeah, it kind of was the piece that sort of like pushed him over the
Yeah.
edge.
And I think the fact that he doesn't even try to have like a conversation with her after is really
Mm-hmm.
frustrating,
Mm-hmm.
because he like really lays it on really thick throughout the entire book about how important she is, how much he missed her, like all of these things. He does point out that he was feeling like jealous of her friendship with Layla. So like there's
Mm-hmm.
some like foreshadowing there in terms of him not thinking clearly, but it still felt very
Right.
like you feel all these things, you care about this person, but you're gonna like purposefully rat her out to her dad, knowing that he
Mm-hmm.
already isn't necessarily the nicest to her,
Right.
and like have no conversation with her after.
Right.
That like really threw me for a loop. Overall, yeah, I think it's a book that has a lot of potential. I'd be interested to see how the series progresses, knowing very little or anything at all of how many books is in it, what's the theme going to be moving forward. I'm
Mm-hmm.
curious to see Elise really stepping into like going against her father.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what happens to Joe. I kind of figured something was going on with her when they said that the person that was with her said that they would bring her out on the deck to like wave by and stuff, and then that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, that felt like a weird little foreshadowing of something is not going right all the way at the beginning. I was expecting her to be murked. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting
Yeah.
to be drugged.
Yeah.
Um the other thing I think that really stuck out to me is that this book is heavily marketed as lesbian
It's a
vampire
friends to
and
enemies to lovers sapphic
mhm.
telling.
And I think it's really marketed heavily that way. And I guess maybe it's the romance lover in me. But I think there was like an excruciatingly slow pivot,
Mm-hmm.
and then once they pivoted, it still felt not
Too
super
slow.
flowy, if that makes sense. I think, and I understood the like trauma that they had both given to each other and how that definitely played a role in their acceptance of their feelings and everything. I think I would have enjoyed the romance more if the book wasn't so heavily marketed, I guess, focusing on the romance element, because I think there's so much more to it. Like it's a lot more plot heavy, like sapphic centered, I guess.
It's also a lot more politically heavy too. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of conversations like being had in the book about the privilege that Elise has, despite being a black person, being able to go to places
Mm-hmm.
that other black people can't go to because they don't have the money and access
Yep.
that she has. So yeah, like it felt. I actually, surprisingly, and I never say this, I liked the slow burn. I
Mm.
usually hate slow burn because it's either too much or not enough. Nobody can ever find like a middle ground. I would have, I think I would have been more okay with the romance if it had, like, just, if the whole book had just been a slow burn rather than we get like this little brief window into what things could be like and then they're separated again. Because that just really hurt, like unnecessarily so.
Yeah, I even think like the little window of what they could have been felt really awkward, because you have them finally kiss, you have them have that little like happy moment, but then even after, but before the like ancient Reaper scene,
Mhm.
right? Even before that, they weren't acting, I guess, the way I would expect them to be if they had like finally admitted to these feelings and like had these. There still felt like there was like a distance between them.
Well, that still makes sense because Elise is still Elise. She's still a
Mm-hmm.
saint. She's still a human. And Layla is still a Reaper who still wants this. There's still like fundamental differences
Yeah.
in their belief systems where like they couldn't ignore it. Like I understand. I'm just disappointed. Like
Yeah.
I would have either liked a little more between them or I would have just gone like full slow burn, maybe one final like admittance of feelings before they get separated, because then the reunion could maybe be a little bit sweeter. I really hope to see Layla and Elise grow on their own and come to terms with their trauma and their issues and then come back together and sort of just hash that all out.
Yeah, they definitely have to work on their communications with each other, cuz that was a lot. There was a lot there. Um but yeah,
There was a lot there.
I mean overall I think the characters were interesting. I liked the
I
side
love Jamie.
characters. Yeah,
Jamie was great.
I liked the side characters. I liked seeing the kind of accurate breakdown of like a toxic father-daughter relationship
Yeah.
was really nice in terms of like it didn't just like flicker from good to bad over like a chapter. It was like you slowly saw him show more and more of like what he really thought of her. And so when it
Yes.
got like really bad, you were like, yeah,
Yes.
this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. As opposed to it being like, oh, he was a super supportive father and then just like had a bad moment, you know? It
Yeah.
was he was supportive as long as
Uh,
she was in line.
Correct. Piece
Uh
of crap from the start.
yeah.
Not great. Not great when you have your own daddy issues
Yeah. Yeah.
to be reading that.
It was a little rough. The conversation with her and her mom
Uh-huh.
was really rough.
Ah.
Uh I'm
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we see more of her mom.
I hope her mom finds some agency.
Yeah, which I think is really hard just remembering the
Time
era we're
period.
talking about
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the power that their last name has cuz it's not as though she could just simply walk away and be fine kind of thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
especially in America, you know, her divorce would be cause for a lot of alarm.
Yeah.
And he doesn't necessarily seem like somebody that would be willing to allow her to get a divorce. Like he seems like somebody that would become threatening or violent in
Yeah.
order to keep her from leaving him because it would be
Bad
embarrassing.
first
Yeah.
image. Yeah.
But this was a fun book. I'm glad we got to read it pretty soon after it came out the same day as Dark Restraint. So it came out this week as we are recording. So it was really nice to like dig into it. I
Yeah. It's
think,
been a hot minute since I've done a new release so quickly.
yeah. So it was really nice. I liked it. I actually haven't seen too much news. Like I've tried to avoid reviews and stuff
Yeah. I don't
online,
want to get spoiled.
especially for like a new release. I can handle looking at reviews or kind of get an idea of the water, but when it's still so new, I didn't want to mess myself up.
That was our conversation on This Ravenous Fate by Hayley Dennings. Okay. Uh, thank you all so much for interacting and listening and being here. We appreciate you very much. If nobody has told you this today, we are proud of you. You are loved. Stay tuned and stay gay for the next episode of Margin Mavens.